Hello. I wanted to briefly talk about not the complete works. I'll maybe talk about that one day. I said I was going to, but maybe not. I figured I would just break them out into piecemeal. Um, so I started reading again from page one. So I started reading. I read what's commonly called the Last Days of Socrates. So the Euthyphro, the Apology. Euthyphro, the Apology, Crito, and Phaedo or On the Soul. Um, I really enjoy. I think maybe that goes without saying, right? This is my third time going through this, so I mean, I must enjoy them. But if you haven't had a chance yet, I highly recommend them. Socrates is a very pleasant character, very fun to be around and talk to. Um, because my tip for one of my tips for reading these is to realize that every time that Socrates does not directly ask a question to Euthyphro or Crito, he is talking to the reader. He is asking you a question. It is a question that you can probably answer. If you look at the text, I bet it is a question he is asking you. Maybe there are some examples where it's not true, but at this point, I highly doubt that. I understand the structure quite a bit more. So Euthyphro is I'll say parody, if that's the right word. Maybe not. I'll say it's a thought on the play, the Greek tragedy, Antigone. So so now Socrates is, yep, that's the cat Jojo. Um, Socrates is on trial for murder, impiety, and Euthyphro is prosecuting his father for uh, murder. So he is asking Euthyphro in order to save himself, which Socrates is not interested in doing. What is piety? Because what he's really trying to show is that Euthyphro doesn't actually know anything, despite the answers of Euthyphro being very confident, very cocky, very sure that he knows what piety is. He goes on for 20 or so pages. It's like 18 pages. It's not very long dialogue. And Euthyphro is shown to not know what piety is, and he abruptly leaves, saying, "I'm sorry, Socrates, I have to go." And Socrates is like, "Darn, I wish I knew. Come on." So, and then we go on to the apology. They really enjoyed the apology this time. I've read it several times. I read it for the first time in like 2020. Um, but I really enjoyed it this time. There's always like inspiring stuff, but then I realized like just how much like Socrates is. You are in the courtroom with Socrates. And so Socrates is kind of saying to the reader who's there in the courtroom, in a weird sort of way, look, this is the philosophic life, right? And yeah, it has its downfalls. Like, I'm about to get killed, but I mean, if you think this is better, if you think what they're doing is better, then hey, go at it. But no, it's like it's an argument. Like, this is the argument for philosophy, or the argument for I don't know, maybe the necessity of philosophy. Yeah, I don't know what the cat's doing. And so then we move on to the Crito, and then the Crito is very short. It's like 10 pages. That is a uh, uh, inversion of the Iliad, where it's also an inversion. What I also realized, and I got this from Thucydides, Socrates is parodying Alcibiades in the history of the Peloponnesian War, because Alcibiades is captured and turns on the Athenians and joins the Spartans because Alcibiades is interested in glory and honor, and Socrates is not interested in any of that. He is a new hero for the Greeks to aspire to be, who says, "No, right? Is this what I want? No, but this is what I'm going to stick with because it's the right thing to do." Sorry, we got another cat here. Um, and so that is the Credo. It's very short, but you will notice that if I can find it very quickly, uh, at the very end, Socrates asks Crito, basically saying like, "What do you after all this conversation? Like, what do you think I should do?" Um, Crito, my dear friend, be assured that these are the words I seem to hear, as the corybants seem to hear the music of their flutes. An echo of those words resounds in me, and make it impossible for me to hear So anything else, as far as my present beliefs go, if you speak in opposition to them, you will speak in vain. However, if you think you can accomplish anything, speak. In other words, if you think that you can convince me to be free, convince me. This was his chance. And Crito said, I have nothing to say. Socrates ends the dialogue with, let it be then, Crito, and let us act in this way, since this is the way that God is leading us. So I think Crito inadvertently put Socrates to death, or Socrates gave him the opportunity, and Crito didn't take him up on it, and I think Socrates is okay on that. And then finally the Phaedo, or apparently as it was called, the Antiquity on the Soul. It takes place after the death of Socrates, and is a retelling of the death of Socrates. But I actually don't think, because the dialogue is primarily retold by Phaedo and what's going on. And he's talking to... Who is he talking to again? Then maybe the name means something to someone else, but it didn't mean much to me. But I at least want to give information on the primary speakers of the dialogue. There are other people that Phaedo is speaking for, but it's Eccritus, maybe? I wasn't really sure. That's definitely something more I'm going to learn as I keep exploring the world of ancient Greece. But it is... So my big takeaway from this dialogue is that I think this is more Plato than Socrates. And the reason I say that, I know it's murky to say what does Plato think and what does Socrates think, or who said what thought what, how it's inspired by his master, as they say. So far my reading on this dialogue is that since it is a retelling and it happened a while ago, and Socrates seems more affirmative in his responses. Whereas in the Apology, at one point near the end, I recognize that he is asked what he believes. He said, well, I don't think this and I don't think this. And then whenever he says, I'll tell you what I believe, he gives you an either or. So he doesn't actually tell you what he believes. He tells you he doesn't really have an answer. Here, Socrates is adamant. I know what this is, and I know it is the forms, which is Plato. Which is, Plato's definitely not allowed to do, right? There's definitely wrong with that. But it is not something that Socrates believed, or at least I can't say it's something that Socrates believes, but I know this is what Plato believed. Dialogues are very, very good, of course. They haven't been around for 2,300 years because they are not good. These are amazing. I really enjoyed my time with them. These have been with me for several years now, so I highly recommend them to everyone who wants to read them. But what I enjoyed about it was engaging with Socrates, because I finally appreciated the questions were not just abstract things for me to think, but actually trying to engage me in the text, which I've never really realized before was possible. And then what I didn't like about it was that the theory of forms is shaky. I don't really go for it. The bigness and smallness are definitely where it kind of doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and it turns heaven into a mathematical it turns heaven into arithmetic, which I'm not really convinced by. But I see what Plato is driving at, and so but still, I would say that's what I don't like about it. Phaedo is probably my least favorite, just because most of it's the theory of forms, and I'm not really I'm no longer into the theory of forms. Would I recommend it? Of course. I would definitely recommend the complete works of Plato, but The Last Days of Socrates, or 5 Dialogues, which also includes the Meno. Meno is 20 pages, super short, good dialogue. It's about recollection. It's got his theory of recollection in it, but I remember, to credit Peter Kreeft, he said that the dialogue is about what is education. So that is my video on The Last Days of Socrates. Thank you very much. Have a good day.